on this
Mm-hmm.
computer. And okay.
Perfect. Then I will share my screen with you guys.
Okay, as you're doing that, I'm going to make this formal introduction. Hello and welcome to our Technology and Innovation Management speaker series at Nova School of Business and Economics. Today, we are lucky to have with us Rebekka, Bogner, who was our Open Innovation Course alumni, and now she's working as an innovation consultant at Hyve, an innovation company from Munich, Germany. So, Rebekka, the floor is yours.
Okay, yeah, thank you very much for the nice introduction and for inviting me to speak to you guys. I will just give you a short outlook. I'll do a short personal introduction so that you know who's talking to you and to whom you can ask your questions in the end. Then I will dive a bit deeper into what Hyve is and what it actually means to work at an open innovation company. And since we all believe collaboration is everything, I will dig in a bit deeper into our crowdsourcing platform and also inform you about an initiative that we just launched to also contribute to kind of solving the corona crisis, at least a bit. And yeah, in the end, there will be time for your questions. So hi, I'm Rebekka. There's a bit more to me, of course, than my name. I'll give you a short background. I did my bachelor's in intercultural and business studies. I was always fascinated by different topics, so I wanted to study different fields. I did languages, politics, art, business, so really a big mix. And I still believe it's very important to think in an interdisciplinary way, also at my job right now. But I also had the opportunity to do some internships. So I went into innovative ecosystems because I was really interested to see, how that works. So I went to a software startup in Tel Aviv. And after my bachelor's, I spent nearly a year in Silicon Valley between the private and public sector. And so yeah, and then I went from this bridge to this bridge to study in Lisbon and do my master's there, since I saw that there were quite some courses on innovation management and entrepreneurship and social innovation. And these were all topics I was really interested in and where I just wanted to dive into deeper. And so actually just 1 year ago, I was sitting in this class, as you are now, not virtually, but yeah, in the classroom. And I felt sometimes like this picture. I think you all know Nova is always, really emphasizing that you need to think about which job you take, where you go into the future. And I felt also among students, it was a lot, which case studies did you learn and to which big consultancies did you go? But I felt a bit more like, I want something really creative. I had different ideas. And I was interested in actually a lot of different fields. But what I could pin it down was essentially these 4 aspects. I wanted to learn a lot, also in my job. I loved that in my master's as well, that it was really diverse, that you could learn tons. At the same time, I wanted to be creative and not in a very serious setting, but where it's also fun and creative to work. To really have a great team, I think that's super important, to have a team that supports you and to be able to explore both in terms of having different projects, having different clients, working in different fields, but also exploring more about myself and understanding better what my strengths are, what my weaknesses. Future course led me to my job now, because when I was in the process of looking and applying to jobs, I remembered the case study, the Nivea case study, which I will briefly mention later as well, where Hyve was also mentioned. And at the day, in class, I looked them up and I was like, cool, they are in Munich. So yeah, I then also saw that Carlotta, another colleague in my class, was doing an internship now. So I contacted her on LinkedIn. We met up for a coffee. She told me about it and I really had a good feeling. And that's another learning I want to share with you. Like, if you apply for jobs, really look onto your LinkedIn network. And I didn't really speak to Carlotta before, but she was super open, and it was really nice to have somebody, to talk to and share ideas with. And feel free to add me on LinkedIn, to contact me afterwards. I'm very happy, to be in touch with you guys. But now let's dig deeper into what Hyve actually is. Hyve comes from Hive, like the beehive, and it stands kind of for collaborative and ambitious working on all types of innovation topics. It was founded in 2000, so as you can imagine, in the 2000s, it was way more about physical products. And in the past 8 to 10 years, it has developed more into digital products, even though what we see now is kind of a convergence. So there's not that big split anymore between physical and digital products necessarily, but rather one extends the other. So a lot of times you would have kind of a physical product and extend it with an app, or do that vice versa. So that's very interesting, the movement in that field. There are over 85 employees. We've had more than 3,000 innovation projects, and actually work together with 70% of the DAX companies and many Fortune 500 companies. And we always say we're not, focusing on one industry, but rather we're experts in the methods. And we believe that innovation is possible in any industry. And so we want to be open to work with any industry. And we also know that we therefore need a very interdisciplinary team that consists, of many different parts, of many different backgrounds, which makes it really cool to work, since we have different nationalities and all types of backgrounds. Our main base is in Munich, which is also called the House of Innovation, but we also have offices in Vienna, in Gran Canaria, and in Jakarta. And what really is at the core of Hyve is an open innovation process and customer centricity. And what you see here now is, more of the traditional approach, the so-called closed innovation process, where it's like, the lab is our world. So we try to do everything from insights and opportunities, to ideas, technology, and finally, having the product in our lab within the company. And then we just need to hope our clients or customers like it. And what we really advertise for, and what's at the core of how we operate, is the open innovation process, where we say the world is our lab. And starting from the insights and opportunities, we always want to identify what are pains, what are actually needs of potential customers or users in the future, and be in a constant feedback loop to really, as we go along in the process of prototyping, developing, always, having the feedback if we're going into the right direction. And at the end, it's way more likely that there is a need in the market for the product or service. And we also really believe one company, which, is different products and services that we do, which I will also elaborate on more later. But we also really see it as, consisting of clients that we also try to bring together and to work collaboratively if we see possible synergies. We also have factory partners if we want to really produce certain products at larger scale, to really, also have them as partners to do that. On top of that, we have quite a broad academic network, which is, the technical university and universities here in Germany, but also internationally, like the MIT and Harvard. And that's how, also our work sometimes ends up in these Harvard business case studies. And so that's like really nice to see that as well. Plus the Hyve Crowd, which is, this crowdsourcing platform that we, don't really see as a standalone product, but rather as a tool to use in innovation processes. But again, I will get deeper into that topic later, but that's definitely really enriching our ecosystems, by a lot of people with different backgrounds and mindsets. And then we actually also have own startups. So as we work in different industries and with different clients, we sometimes come across interesting ideas ourselves, and then we decide to put them into own startups. And so what was really interesting for me is, based on my prior experience in companies and startups, I really enjoy this like mix of both. So you have somewhat a bit more structures than in a startup where everything is more like crazy, but at the same time, you have access to startups that kind of sit in the same house and that you exchange, that you do projects with. So you're really exposed to, a variety of different setting and types of projects. And what we actually do, we sometimes call Hyve like the one-stop shop for innovation, because it pretty much covers everything, you know, from really the fuzzy front end to the implementation. So that means we work with clients together on exploring customer needs and, you know, seeing where there might be opportunities for innovation. But we also help creating ideas, putting that into concepts, and helping them with business planning. Then also we go further and help them to build and test prototypes, to design and develop products and services. So we have own designers in the house who do that, and also implement innovations or do startup building. And so these are kind of our main 3 blocks. It's really this innovation as a service, which is, you know, all the industrial design, product development, market research, consulting on digital transformation, but also crowdsourcing, open innovation projects, really big variety. And I will guide you through the 3 blocks in the next minutes. So what you see here, I wanted to give you some examples as well of, you know, how these products could look like. For instance, we developed here the Styline for Bosch, you know, for all their kitchen supply systems. But one other project that I think is really cool, and I think our designers did an amazing job, is for Lilium, which is a startup that's actually also based here in Munich, and they're working on flying taxis, and they kind of did the design of one of the first ones. So that's super interesting, and what we develop in-house as well. And then here we get to the famous Nivea case, since that's also part of our product offering. And this technique is, you know, more in the beginning. So the product design, that's like all, you know, kind of more in towards the end of the innovation process. And I wanted to give you like extreme examples of what we would do. And ethnography, that's really at the beginning of an innovation process. And Beiersdorf came to Hyve and they were like, okay, you know, after developing deodorant that lasts for like 48 hours, for 72 hours, like what can you do? You know, at one point people need to shower and you can't have like deodorant that's good for 2 weeks. Like there's not really a use case. So like, what's the next big thing? What would users want? What would be like different, you know, for us to provide as in the deodorant section? And ethnography is a way to kind of do ethnography digitally. And so what it means is that you as a researcher basically go and look online what people discuss about concerning the topic that you're interested in. So Hyve researchers would go into the net and screen through online forums, communities, to really see what are people talking in terms of, you know, sweating and all of this. And what they discovered is that a lot of people actually, you know, complain about their stains on t-shirts when they spray on deodorant, you know, that it would turn yellow and that it's really uncomfortable for them. And so this is how, you know, this new niche product was developed. And Hyve then helped, you know, to really filter the relevant consumer insights and to capture these consumer beliefs and to really validate this need of a solution that would, you know, really be stain-free. And this led to, you know, this invisible black and white deodorant, which is the most successful product launch in the history of Beiersdorf that has ever happened. And this just shows that there is so much information about what users need out there, but you just need ways how to, you know, find it and structure it to see opportunities out of it. And I think that was a super interesting study. Let me check why that is not. Okay, now. And then we also, as I mentioned, have these startups that we built up. And I want to also let you know a bit about what type of startups that are. And we have a pretty wide range of startups. There's Icarus, which is a startup where you have this virtual reality classes on, and then you fly through worlds. So you can do that in a game way with others or alone. And you are in these like planking position, and so you train while you're gaming, so you're staying fit while you're having fun. Then there is the eggnog liquor, my Aya, and fun fact, this product was actually crowdsourced, so the recipe was used you know, by crowdsourcing. And then we also have Tawny, which works in the area of emotion AI. So it's really about helping to analyze emotions automatically. And what is really fun with this project is that, for example, I'm now also participating in a study that we're doing with Tawny to really analyze better how people get into a workflow, and how, you know, maybe this software tool could help in the new work process to help people work with less stress and really get more into a flow. And for that, I'm now being a study participant. So that's also what we do sometimes as Hyve. We really work together, and sometimes we're doing the studies and sometimes we're being part of it. And then as a last tool, there is, as a last startup, there's Julia, which is a startup that helps to guide through the different innovation stages. And that's like an online consulting tool, so to say, that companies can use to really smoothen their innovation process. Oops. Sorry, I'm having sometimes problems going to the next slide. Here we go. Perfect. And then, as I mentioned before, we also have innovation science. So we already have more than 350 publications in different academic journals, have a large university network, and also do seminars and education, which is really, you know, I think beneficial to exchange, to see what's happening, you know, in terms of research when it comes to innovation, to be able to implement that, but also to, you know, build up and do research on what we do. For example, with Tawny, there's a lot of research in emotion AI. So that's something where we also work a lot in research. And here you see, probably you've already seen this guy, Hippo. Our founder, Johan Füller, actually did his PhD with him. So he also, that was before my time, I must say though, was in our office. And we also have some close ties with the Harvard Business School, where we had a really amazing professor speaking about his new book, which was competing in times of AI, in our house at the House of Innovation, to share his insights. So that's something that we really cherish and value, to have this exchange to different academic networks. And what I have learned so far, so that was something that I really also took from Light's course, was ignoring innovation is a dangerous game. It's never an option not to innovate and to think like, you know, you're fine with the status quo. It's always, you know, challenging yourself. And I think that's also important for companies like Hyve, for us as well. And what I also found out, you know, is so many times also when you start working, you think like, okay, now I'll learn this, and then I'll get, you know, from A to B this way, straight line. But actually how the process a lot of times is, it's like more like this. And also innovation processes, and when you work in different design sprints, you know, where you have ideas and you get customer feedback and you reevaluate it, it's a very iterative process. But in the end, you've really explored different ideas. And I've also learned that the earlier you test out ideas, the easier it's also to let go of it, because you're attached to it and you're still more open to get feedback on it. So that also makes it, I think, a lot of fun. And if I would need to pin it down to 4 main learnings, I would say 1 is really asking questions, and critical questions is really important. Before I did my master's, I wrote down some things that I really wanted to do, and I put it like in an envelope. And after my master, I opened it up again. And my main thing was really, don't be afraid to ask questions. And I think this is something that you can already learn in your master's, to not be afraid to ask questions, to be critical in your courses, because that is something that really helps me in my job, to understand my clients better, to really help them work, to question ideas and concepts in a better way. And I think that's just really, really crucial. The second one is, I think that's also very, very important, is to collaborate and to share whenever you can. And I think that's also something you can start at university early on. Really don't hesitate to share your insights. And I believe that a lot of times, you know, your own ideas, they get just better when you get feedback from others, and when you can share things. Everything just gets better, and it's enriching for yourself, but also for others. The third, I would say, is don't be afraid to jump into cold waters. It's refreshing. That's what I've learned at Hyve. You know, you get responsibility very early on. They trust you to try things, and don't let your perfectionism hinder you. So I think, you know, if you always think you need to be perfect or have the perfect amount of information before doing something, you will never able to do it. So I think being fine with knowing that you will learn it along the way. And as long as you're open and as long as you ask colleagues for help when you need it and you're proactive, then you can learn a lot in a very short amount of time. And I think also being supported by a team and having fun with your team is super important. I really like my colleagues in these times of Corona. I, make virtual lunch dates with them to meet up with them. And I think it's important. And I think it ties to number 2, it's easier to collaborate and share when you support each other and when you have fun. And so now what about crowdsourcing? Since I told you that we will dig a bit deeper into this, I really like this quote, which says, no matter who you are, most of the smartest people work for someone else. And this is really a question because everyone knows you only have access to a very limited set of qualified people. And even if you are an amazing organization, you are in need to different perspectives, to open your eyes, to have critical feedback, to question your approaches and ideas. But then, how do you find the right external people who are willing to help you? How should you structure the process in an accessible way? How can you incentivize people actually to add value to your innovation process? And how can you save time and costs while retaining qualitative input? These are all questions, that you would ask yourself potentially. And so what the Crowd does, you can imagine it as a platform that brings together both sides. On the one hand, there are these companies or organizations, or sometimes we even worked with public agencies or government bodies. And then you have this large crowd, people that sign up on this platform, and you can do so by free. And so what the companies would do is they would, put up questions, we call them contests, where they would ask for feedback or for new ideas or for solutions for problems, and also provide incentives in terms of prices for the community. And the community, in return, they would submit ideas, solutions, use cases, and feedback. And our Hyve crowd is super international. Google Analytics tells us that there are people nearly from every country that visit our platform. And most of them, are kind of based in the German region, but also a lot of them are from the United States, from India. And what's really interesting is that how diverse their backgrounds are. So we have engineers, we have managers, students, designers, people from a broad background. And just to give you one example, we have one user that's like contributing a lot and super valuable insights and ideas. And her name is Gisela, and she's a German engineer. And she says, well, at her job, she just can't be as creative as she wants to be. And so she really likes being on the crowd to be able to work creatively and to help solve problems for others. And so that's something that we think is really amazing, that you can really have this unbiased feedback because you have this external and way more customer-focused perspective. And you also basically can access it 24/7. And what you can use it for, we kind of see 3 main areas, which is one, ideation and problem solving. So either you say, okay, for example, we had a project with BMW where they were like, okay, what's the future of mobility? What do people see? What do our customers see? Where that goes into the future? So that was really pretty open and more about finding ideas. Or it's more, in terms of specific problems that companies have, where they want to have, more specific solutions to it. Then what we also have a lot is application-based. So some companies or startups have developed a technology and they ask themselves, where are maybe different industries where we could also use this technology? But since you're, a lot of times focused on one industry, you're kind of in a tunnel. So they use the crowds to have access to all these people that work in very different fields that might have ideas where their technology could actually be useful as well. And then we also use it for validation. So sometimes when we do design sprints where we develop ideas with our clients in a very fast way to, come up with a first idea or a value proposition, then we could use the Hyve crowd overnight to already generate qualitative feedback in terms of comments that they put on these ideas, and use them the next day and enrich the whole process already with customer feedback. And just to give you one example, because I think that's a great that shows in a good way this open innovation approach and how the crowd is used, because we don't really see the crowd necessarily as just a platform in itself, but rather as really a part of what we do. And this was, for example, a challenge that Vodafone had. They had this narrowband IoT sensor technology, and they were wondering in which field this technology could actually be interesting. And so they opened up this contest. They got over 400 contributions. And what came out of it actually is super interesting, because it is now a sensor that can be used, especially for companies like the Deutsche Bahn, which is the German transport company, because they face a lot of problems when people spray graffiti on their trains. And it's very, very costly to remove that later. But with these detectors, you could really, in real time see when there's a graffiti coincidence happening, and then, they can clean that up way quicker. And so, if you clean it up right away, you can do that, with water, and you don't have to spend, this extensively on it. And just to give you some more insights on this like collaborative process, first there was this online idea contest, but then there was a, big evaluation time where Hyve put together an analysis of clustering the different ideas into different topics and opportunity areas, having that, in a workshop format then, where different partners and could discuss that together. And, with an innovation camp and lab, they came across this idea of putting it, into this kind of sensor of how it looks now. And then our designers also collaboratively work together with other partners to really prototype this. So this is, I think, a great example. And again, the crowd can be used in innovation labs, design thinking approaches, for a lot of different innovation approaches. And that's why, in some projects, the crowd might only be 10% of the actual project, but still super valuable. And now the question, how could the crowd help fight Corona? We really believe that, there's a real power of the crowd and working together collaboratively. And for situations like now, we need to work together more than ever. And that's why we decided to provide the platform for free for the next 3 months. And we said, okay, we want to open, this platform for universities or companies, foundations, organizations that have ideas. That could be, exploring new business ideas, identifying new ways of working and tools, developing new applications for existing technologies or resources, medical or nursing ideas, or suggestions for social participation in the federal government's measures. And just to give you some ideas, it's something, there are no contests online yet, but we are very excited to put some up in the upcoming days. And just to give you, some more ideas on how they could look like, we have a startup that developed a blockchain technology to track diamonds, to kind of help avoid blood diamonds and, and all the negatives that are sometimes related with the extraction of diamonds. And they said it would be cool to see how our technology, so that's an application case, could actually be valuable in the setting as well. For example, maybe in terms of identifying new ways to vaccination, and to be able to track that back and to make that really safe and secure. There is another company that develops disinfection sprays, and they said, we want to do a contest and see how, and that's more a problem solution-based approach, how we can decrease infection rates at hospitals. Maybe that's through education, or maybe that's through new products or services. So that can be very open. Just to give you an example of what that could be.
We have a hard stop in about 7 minutes.
Perfect. I'm nearly at the end.
Okay.
And so what I would really encourage you to do is that either, you know, maybe as student groups, you come up with an idea where you really feel this could be interesting. And then, you know, you can reach out to us and tell us about your idea, and we can see if we can put that online. But you can also just sign up to the Hyve Crowd platform. It's really easy. It's your time to sign, as to say. Just go on www.hyvecrowd.com. You can sign up for free. There are a variety of different contests. You have the chance to win prizes. You can connect with others. Yeah, really learn a lot. And we would really encourage you to also, you know, maybe use your brain power to be part of these upcoming contests that help to tackle the Corona crisis in a way. And now I would open the time for questions, actually.
So people did not really put any questions there. Guys, do you have questions? Would you like to ask something? If not, I can ask a couple of questions. Maybe they were just too much fascinated with your talk. It was a wonderful talk, so thank you very much for this. Guys, you have very few minutes to ask the questions. Anybody who is online and wants to add something? Okay, so let me ask you something before everybody else. So again, what's the biggest surprise for you when you became an innovation consultant?
Surprise. I think it's really how quick you need to adapt to projects. And I think at Nova, we all know sometimes we feel overloaded with work and we feel like, oh, I don't have enough time to do this. And for me, it was a realization that in a working context, you also never have enough time. So I think really, and see this as a way to learn how to prioritize and accept the fact that there's, you know, maybe never enough time. And sometimes you just need to go with it, to try things out. And you also do this in a working context. And still, you know, we have high ambitions for our work we do. We just don't give our clients anything. But it's really learning how to deal with your time and where you need to put in time and energy, where are areas that you don't need to do so much. And I think that's something where I was like, wow, this is really how it works.
Okay, thank you very much for this. And let me ask you one more question.
Sure.
Like, given everything that you studied in Open Innovation course and then you faced the reality, what was different?
I think, you know, in Open Innovation courses, obviously you learn, for example, about the different schools of thought. So you learn about West Coast and the East Coast and, you know, how they maybe argue. And I think when you work in that, that's not something you really consider. Like it's more, I think about, it's more mixed, you know? So we have also crowdsourcing where Hippel maybe does not really believe in that so much. But still, you know, we use different things and we still use parts of, we still believe, you know, there are lead users and innovation needs to be user-centric. But a lot of times it's way more merged and mixed, you know, than maybe different schools of thoughts are.
Very good. And let's say if no other questions appear in this chat, I would ask one more thing. So what makes you, which part of the course is the most valuable to you in your work now?
I think these are two components. I think one, what I really liked having done these case studies, because I think they really help you to understand problems. And I think also they're your question. So, you know, being able to then being challenged by critical questions and also asking critical questions yourself is very crucial in the job. And I think also as part of your course, it was a lot of times, you know, very spontaneously, like think about an idea, come up with it, pitch it now. And I think in a lot of our workshop formats, that's quite similar. So you really need to be spontaneous, be creative, and without a lot of preparation, think about ideas on spot and present them. So I think these are two super valuable components that I could really take from the class to my job.
Okay, thank you very much. We have another speaker coming in 5 minutes. We should definitely switch and have time to do this switch.
Of course.
Thank you very much for your time, and seeing you again is really an honor. Thank you, and pass our regards to Johan, and all our alumni there.
Perfect. Yeah, I'll say hi to them. Thank you very much again. Yeah, please sign up on the Hyve crowd. It would be really cool to see some of you there. And feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn, Rebekka Bogner, it's my name. So you can find me there. And if you have questions, don't hesitate to ask me later.
Thank you very much, and stay healthy and safe.
Yes, you too. Bye. Stay safe, guys.
Bye-bye.